Lord Cartasia entered the war room with a sense of dread. He knew with great certainty that the next few weeks could determine the very existence of the race of men. He had drawn together what allies he had, and would for the first time be holding a council of war to determine how best to break Bretonnia from the grip of the forces of chaos. Joining Cartasia was Tok'ran Facecrusher, the tyrant of the White-Tooth clan who had pledged his service to the rebellion, and Archlector Heinrich von Grunberg, leader of the imperial forces in the Great Mountains. They had reached out to the dwarves of Clan Odhain, but none of his messengers had been able to find the dwarves. It was assumed that they had been destroyed, or very at least driven away. "Gentlemen," Cartasia began, "it is in our hands to determine the fate of Bretonnia. Make no mistake, if we are found lacking, the grip of chaos may never be loosened from those lands." "We understand the import of our actions, Cartasia," the Archlector interrupted. While he was honor-bound to aid the Bretonnians in this battle, von Grunberg still harbored resentment of Cartasia for his betrayal and abandonment of his post in the Empire. "Yeah," the Ogre Tyrant agreed. "Cut to the bone. What's our plan?" Cartasia nodded. "Simply put, we must break our enemies apart. With the forces of King Alphonius supporting them, chaos is too powerful for us to overcome. We must strike before they can form a cohesive force." "Won't be easy," Tok'ran replied. "My hunters say the beastmen already make for the northern pass into Bretonnia. They'll be through it within days." "I know," Cartasia responded. "So we must stage a holding action to delay them while we begin striking at the outer defenses of Bretonnia. To that end, I have commanded Lady Aveline to take a vanguard force to delay the beastmen by whatever means necessary, while you two will form a combined assault against the fortress at Bastogne." "But the fortress is the largest massing of troops in the country," the Archlector replied. "Yes, and if it can be broken, the road to the capital is clear for us." "You risk much, Cartasia," von Grunberg warned. "We have to, Archlector. Even if we strike at the capital directly without engaging Bastogne, we leave a great enemy force at our rear, and I feel that is a greater danger than what I propose." The Archlector merely nodded in reply. Tok'ran smiled. "Excellent. There'll be feast and fighting enough for all." Agreed upon their courses, the three leaders returned to their armies to prepare. So we have here our vanguard force of the Bretonnians trying to hold off the onslaught of chaos. Now this is a battle for the past scenario. The Legions of Chaos actually have 2,500 points in this game, and the forces of Bretonnia only have 2,000 to represent their smaller numbers. Now we are playing this as a standard game in terms of who wins, but we've decided that the scenario, or the narrative, will proceed in one direction if the Bretonnians are wiped out before turn 6 is over, and a separate way if they manage to last the whole game. So that's really what the Bretonnians are aiming for here, is to mix it up and to basically go the whole 6 turns. So we'll go ahead and get into deployment and get the game underway. So in the back corner, we have a unit of 9 Knights of the Realm with full command and the Banner of Swiftness. Up in front of them, we have a unit of 10 Peasant Bowmen with their defensive stakes. Then in the back, we have a Trebuchet. Then a unit of 6 Grail Knights with Musician and Standard. With them is the Paladin BSB for the army, who has a Grommel Greathelm. Up front, we have a unit of 50 Men-at-Arms with Musician and Standard. Actually, no, they do have full command. And with them is a level 1 Damsel of the Lady to Lore of Beasts, and she has the prayer icon with her as well. Then on this side, we have a second Trebuchet. We have another unit of a unit of Errant Knights this time. There is 8 of them in that unit. With them is Lady Aveline, the level 3 Prophetess of the Lady, Lore of Beasts with a channeling staff. And up front is another 10 Peasant Bowmen with the stakes that they get. Now, I don't have the Beastman list, so I'm going to do this as best I can from memory. But we have the Gorgon on the far side with 3 Minotaurs with additional hand weapons, and I believe they're marked Corn with full command. Then we have a unit of 20 Marauders with flails. They are marked Zinch, and they also have full command. Then in the back you have the Demon Prince of Zinch, Morgrul. I'm not sure what he's got, but he definitely has like a 4-up ward and armor and that sort of thing. Then a conga line of Chaos Hounds, a big unit of Gore. I think there's 30 of them in there. They've got additional hand weapons and are marked Corn. Behind them are 15 Chaos Warriors marked Zinch with hand weapon and shield. Then over here we have, looks like 20 Bestigors. His level 4 Shaman to the Lore of Wild is in there as well, and he has a Hag Tree Fetish. And then this thing that looks suspiciously like a Chaos Spawn is actually a Razorgore. The Beastman player doesn't own any Razorgores, so we figured this would be a good enough sub-in for this game. So, with good Bretonnia having to pray, Warriors of Chaos Legions of Chaos, gets the first turn, and they push up pretty aggressively. I think the Legion sees that far flank as being the weakest, so the Minotaurs and the Gorgon are heading straight for it. Definitely want to push hard there and see if they can break in. Everything else is just running straight towards the center as much as it can, but he is trying to keep everything within leadership bubbles. So over here we go to Magic. He ends up getting on the Reign of Chaos table, the Nurgle one, and it hurts both peasant units. The bowmen here lose 3, and I think the big peasant brick loses 2 or 3. But beyond that, the Beastman magic is all out of range, so he doesn't take any other actions during his magic phase at all. So we go into turn 1 of Bretonnia, and they don't really move much. The only big thing is that the Green Knight does successfully come on, and he appears in the forest behind the Legion's lines. Now that piece of terrain there with the die on it is actually a charnel pit, so what the Bretonnian player decided to do here is throw magic at this dog unit, hoping to kill it and provoke some panic checks. Now, I think we all forgot at the time that big Gore unit is frenzied, so he's immune to panic. But ultimately it didn't matter because the flock of birds he had was not able to kill the dog, so pretty immaterial. He then opens up some shooting on the big Gore unit and does 1 wound on that. Now, you may notice that the Bretonnian player has 2 trebuchets, but I'm probably going to forget to mention them most of the game because they really were terrible. Or not even terrible, really. Like, he kept targeting the Demon Prince and kept getting direct hits and then failing to wound. And the one time he did wound, the Demon Prince ward saved. So they're really not going to come into much. So we go into Legion's turn 2. And the Gorgon attempts to charge those archers. They fail their terror check and run off to where you see them here. The Razorgore here succeeds his charge into the front of the archers. I think they stand in shot, but they didn't do any wounds. And the big Gore unit, I think, needed a 10 or an 11 to hit the peasant, the men-at-arms brick, and failed it, so they bounce up a couple of inches. And here you can see where the Gorgon ended up after his failed charge against the peasant bowman. Then with the rest of his movement, Bestigors go and hide behind the fence. The warriors are still keeping up right behind the Gore herd. The Marauders are going around the other side of the charnel pit to kind of give some support to the Minotaurs. And that one little dog is just going to go over there and cause some trouble near the men-at-arms. His Demon Prince, I think, stays sort of close to the back, but I don't really see where he ends up. Yeah, okay, there he is. So it looks like I think he realizes that the Green Knight's going to go after the Gorgon, so he wants to set up for a charge, a counter charge himself, on the Green Knight, because I'm pretty sure the Demon Prince, because he doesn't have a lot of magic weapons, I think the Demon Prince is the only thing that can actually hurt the Green Knight. So magic accomplished nothing, and he has no shooting phase, so we go into combat. The Razorgore totally busts up some peasants, breaks them, overruns, catches them, and slams right into the front of the Knight Errant unit that was behind them. So we go into Bretonnia, turn 2, Green Knight slams into the back of the Gorgon, and the Knights of the Realm pull off a freaking Hail Mary charge, and like boxcars on the charge slam right into the front of the Minotaurs. Now, this really could go badly for him. He needs to break this Minotaur unit on the charge, or that unit's just going to eat him alive. Everything else over here, you can see the Grail Knights don't do much of anything. The peasants that were fleeing rally, and the men-at-arms are still just standing there waiting for him to come in, because he doesn't want to extend them too far outside of that BSB bubble that is coming from the Grail Knights. So we go into magic phase, and the level 1 prophetess miscasts getting Wissons up on the peasants as sort of a stay the hell back maneuver, and rolls an 11 on the miscast and loses her wizard level. So this is the only time that Wissons is going to show up during the game. Then during shooting, this trebuchet misfires and blows itself up. So we go into combat, and the Razorgore actually manages to kill 1 or 2 of the knights, and the knights put 2 wounds back on him. Through static combat res, the Razorgore breaks, and because of what's sitting there on the other side of the field, the knights do not choose to pursue, so the Razorgore escapes to where you see him here. Then here, the Green Knight takes advantage of the fact that he just came out of a poison forest and goes for extra attacks, gets 6 extra attacks on his Dolorious Blade, and manages to get, I think it's 2 wounds through. It was pretty bad. He rolled very, very badly for poison. But the Gorgon can't hurt him, so they stay there. The Gorgon's stubborn, leadership 10, so he's not going anywhere and can't turn around. Now over here, things went amazingly. As you can see, the Minotaurs did do some damage. They took off basically that whole back rank, but the Knights ended up coming through. They won the battle by 3, I want to say, mainly static combat res, but he was rolling ward saves and armor saves like a boss. So the Minotaurs break and get run down. Downside is that puts the Demon Prince right in the flank of those Knights. And then during Legions of Chaos turn, the Demon Prince charges the Night Brick. They fail their panic check and flee and end up stopping right where you see them here, right in front of that fight with the Green Knight and the Gorgon. Then as you see, the Demon Prince very easily catches the Knight unit and destroys them. Here in the center, the Gore Herd fails their 2nd straight charge attempt into those peasants and ends up right here at the fence. Then for the rest of the movement, you see that the Razorgore has failed to rally again, runs through the Gore unit, doesn't panic them. The Warriors come up again to help support, and then the Marauders swift reform and start moving back around this way. Not entirely sure what he was aiming for there, but I guess he doesn't feel like there's any good targets for them on that other side of the board. And then you see over here, the solo dog comes and gets up in the face of the peasants. So magic again accomplishes nothing. We go into combat, and the Green Knight manages to bring the Gorgon down to only needing 1 more wound to kill him. Gorgon fails to turn around yet again, but doesn't break. So we go into Bretonnian turn, and I think he just kind of slides some stuff back a little bit. He wants to keep the Beastmen making those long charges and fails them, and is looking for a good way to get going. The one thing I've noticed is he basically is keeping his Grail Knights trapped here behind the peasants, so I don't know how helpful they're going to end up being in this game. So during magic, Flock of Birds goes off and just slams into this Gore unit. takes a whole mess of them out, and I'm not sure why. Maybe okay, I guess the warrior's last turn turned and came this way. I just didn't get a picture of it. But yeah, so the flock of birds cast just totally destroys a huge hunk of that unit. But unfortunately, it was a miscast 4. So big template gets dropped down on their. Or no, it wasn't a miscast 4. It was miscast 7. So everything adjacent to the spellcaster who was in the middle of the lance gets a strength 10 hit, and it annihilates it. Only thing left is the banner and the champion out of the unit, and the spellcaster herself, who did not get wounded because that's not how that miscast works. Then in shooting, the Bretonnian archers finally take off that one dog. About freaking time, in my estimation. And after another failed trebuchet shot, we go into combat, and the Green Knight kills the Gorgon, and he ends up reforming to face the Demon Prince shortly after I take this photo. So we go into Beastman turn, and the Gore Herd finally manages to slam into the peasants. Now keep in mind, these are Gore with additional hand weapons and Mark of Cain, so they're frenzied. There's something like 45 attacks in this unit going against the 31 of the peasants because of the horde. So this is going to be a bloody encounter regardless of which way it goes. But at this point, I think the benefit is to the Gore. And then over here, the Demon Prince Morgrul slams into the front of the Green Knight. And again, probably putting my money on the Demon Prince in this encounter. Then over here, the Razor Gore does not rally, continues to flee. And I want to say, maybe I messed something up, but I think those Marauders were fleeing for some reason last turn. And I don't remember why, but I think they rally this turn and turn around to face the other direction. And then during the rest of his movement, Bestigor's finally crossed the fence, and the other warrior unit straightens up and is continuing on to help support. Again, I think the idea is the Beastman player, or the Legions of Chaos player, just wants to put as much pressure on this flank. As once those peasants break, it's just a couple of small one half-decent Knight Lance and 3 other Knights, and he should be able to spit him off the board at that point. So we go into combat, and obviously the Demon Prince just totally wrecks the Green Knight, so he's dead, but on the plus side, he gets the chance to essentially reappear next turn, so not a huge loss yet. And then in the big fight, the Lowborn show what they are made of. He ends up, the Beastigors or the Gores have to declare a challenge. I think the Wizardess gets sent to the back, something to that effect. And then the freaking peasants just open a can on the Gores. The Gores just can't get much through. I think they only kill 2 or 3 peasants. It was really kind of ridiculous. And then the peasants just absolutely rape face. So the Gore are not stubborn, they break, but the peasants, they either roll terribly to pursue or choose not to. I don't recall which. So we go to Bretonnia turn, and he tries a 3-piece combo charge with everything he's got. Fails with the Grail Knights because they're just terrible. But ends up succeeding with the peasants and the last Knight Errants. And because of how long the peasant unit is in the positioning, they actually go into the flank of the Bestigors. So they slam in there, the 3 Knights and his level 3 Wizard slam into the front, and the Grail Knights hang out in the back. As you can see here, the Green Knight pops up again in the same forest that gives him poison attacks, behind everything, with the hope that he'll end up giving him another good charge, and that Green Knight will get into something and just wreck face. And the peasants here move up. They need to shoot the Gore, because the Gore only need to lose 3 more models till they get to the point where they're rallying on ones, so he's hoping to get up there and make that happen. So during Magic phase, the caster, in the Bretonnian caster, ends up getting the major transformation of Kadan off and turns into a mountain chimera. So that's pretty freaking awesome, and may end up actually saving some death here at the hands of these Bestigors. So the Bretonnians are not out, and frankly, those peasants have been doing awesome. So this could still be a good fight. And it is. The Bestigors get the crap beaten out of them. Like half of them die, and the Chimera tries to chase them down, fails to catch, and they bounce through the Warriors unit, and the Chimera slams into the front of the Warriors. And again, I don't remember if the peasants failed to pursue or rolled crappy, or if they just chose not to. But that's bad for that Wizardess Chimera. So we go into Warriors' turn. The Gore unit rallies and reforms, as you see there. The Razagore is continuing to flee, and the Bestigors rally behind the Warriors that are about to mess up that Mountain Chimera. So definitely not good. The Bretonnians are doing some damage. It's just not any lasting damage or anything they're getting points from, which is sad. Over here, Demon Prince comes in. The Marauders turn around and basically move up as they can to try and block the Green Knight from getting into anything that he can actually kill. So during Magic Phase, the Legions of Chaos player rolls an 11 on the dice, which affects the spellcaster that is in the peasant unit with demonic possession. She fails her leadership check, dies, and turns into a Herald of Tzeentch who gets pink fire right on the flank of those peasants. Not a good day. And the only other thing that the Legion of the Chaos player does is dispel Transformation of Kadan, which then during combat allows them to absolutely brutalize this wizard, which happened in a challenge with the BSB that's in that unit. And the Chaos table, the Eye of the Gods table, ended up giving him an additional ward save. So he's up to like a 3-up ward save now. And that's just absolutely painful for the Bretonnians. So over here we go to Bretonnian's turn. Now what he didn't realize in trying to block off the Green Knight is that the Green Knight could still see a corner of the Gore unit and tries to charge them. They choose to flee and end up where you see here. Nobody else panics, but the Green Knight does not choose to redirect because he wants to get out of the front arc of the Marauders and get over somewhere where he can do some good. Over here, the peasants, I guess they charge the Warriors because they run to where you see them there. That was just a terrible picture of what I did. And the Knights here try to charge the Herald and end up failing, so they go forward like another 2 inches. It's pretty ridiculous. And there we go. There's my better picture of the peasants charging into the Warriors. Again, this fight may be a little beyond their weight class, but the peasants have been about the only thing performing in his army. Other than, I got to give credit to the Knights of the Realm. They did take out those Minotaurs early on, and the Green Knight's been doing well. But the peasants have been kicking more tail than they really should, and they're going to go into the Warriors and see if they can do it again. And here is where the failed charge from the Green Knight ended him up. He rolled 6 inches, so he's out in a position where he can't get charged by anybody, which is definitely what the Bretonnian player wanted. But sad to say, the peasants could not pull it out against Warriors of Chaos. They do like 2 wounds. The Warriors just do a ridiculous number. The peasants are not steadfast and break and are run down, as you see here. So we go into Beastman turn. Warriors charge the front of the Knights. He tried to be a combo charge with that Herald too, just for positioning purposes. Herald failed. The other one, the unit succeeded. He moves up the Bestigors to bring them a little closer, and his Gore unit rallies. Then over here, the demon prince turns around and walks up in front, an inch in front of the Green Knight, just daring him to come get some. And finally, the Razor Gore rallies and turns to look in, but this is pretty sure this is Legions of Chaos turn 6, so it really doesn't much matter. So, during Magic Phase, the Beastman Spellcaster channels a Bray Scream through the Warriors of Chaos BSB and melts the entire unit of Grail Knights. There's only his BSB and a single Grail Knight remaining going into combat phase. However, the resulting miscast of making that happen kills all but 2 of the Bestigors, but the mage does not take any wounds from it. I think it was a small template, maybe? And then during combat, obviously the 2 remaining knights are not enough to stop that Warriors of Chaos brick. They get totally trashed, and the warriors overrun to the point you see them there. And the only thing that occurs during Bretonnia turn 6 is that the Green Knight charges the Demon Prince, but they do not manage to kill each other. And so passed Lady Aveline Mardigan, but she and her forces did not give up their lives easily, nor quickly. The rebel Bretonnians claimed a great many of Morgrul's forces before they were finally destroyed, and they slowed the hordes of chaos considerably. But the forces of the Changer of Ways were not so easily defeated. Tzeentch knew that the forces of Bretonnia far outnumbered those of the rebels, and understood that with patience that advantage would ultimately win out. And so the Changeling, in the guise of King Alphonius, was ordered to advise caution. He was unaware when the next attack from the rebels would occur, and so it would benefit them to wait and watch for their opportunity. And that opportunity would soon come. For unbeknownst to the forces of chaos, Archlector Heinrich von Grunberg and Tok'ran Facecrusher were quickly leading their forces to besiege the fortress at Bastogne. So, as this one comes down, obviously it's a victory by points to the Legion of Chaos, but for the purposes of our narrative, we are considering this a scenario victory to Bretonnia. They managed to last all 6 turns and did a huge number on the Beastmen, which is entirely what this force was supposed to do in terms of the narrative. So, well done to both players. This was probably one of the most fun games of Warhammer to watch that we've ever played. It was really, and I don't even know if my battle report gave sort of the back and forth as much as it was, but it was a very fun game. And even with the 500-point deficit, I think if the Bretonnian trebuchets had been a little bit more on point, I think the Bretonnians could even have squeezed this one out by the points, which was pretty amazing when you consider they're up against Legion of Chaos at a 500-point deficit. So it was an awesome game. We all had fun. This was just an absolute blast to watch. And it's gotten us definitely excited and juiced for the last couple of games of this narrative. So, as it stands, the Forces of Chaos will not be getting any scenario benefits from help in the next game, which was something available. The Forces of Order have kept them away, so the next game in the scenario is going to be a 2-on-1 battle with the Ogres and the Empire facing off against the evil Bretonnians at the fortress at Bastogne, and then, depending upon how that goes, whether whoever wins that one by the scenario is going to have the potential to give a bonus to their side in the final battle when the rebels attack the capital and attempt to kill the Changeling, who is masquerading himself as Alphonius, and free the peoples of Bretonnia. So we're definitely interested in that. Can't wait to see where that's going. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this bat rep as much as I enjoyed watching the battle. And again, as always, if you have comments, please leave them below. I'm definitely trying to get to any that I can. And I will catch you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.